Heck. Alright, rescue mission. Let's do the thing. Save the friend. Rimi Sakihara shivered as she opened the glass door and came inside what looked like a lobby. A freezing chill came up from the floor. There was no sign of anyone nearby. Given the location, that was only natural, but knowing what waited ahead, Rimi still wished there was at least one person there. In front of her was a soundproof door, like you'd see at a movie theater. There was a chill coming from the gap between it and the floor, and a white fog, like dry ice. Rimi bit down hard on her lip. She was holding her D-sword in both hands. She'd already real-booted it. Rimi told herself this as forcefully as she could. Then she took one last big breath before pushing open the door with her shoulder. They say D-sword, but it's definitely two swords, right? Her eyes went wide when she saw what was inside. It was a device, impossibly huge and monstrous. The room was dome-like, with the device at its center. I believe I saw this in Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne. I can't remember what that location was called, but this is definitely that room. There was a faint, eerie sound that echoed throughout the huge space. It was low, like a beast's roaring. The sound meant the device was running. Oh, this is the Noah 2? Snap. A voice answered her. When she heard it, she felt terror in her very soul.
Sakihata Rimi. 1年半ぶりですね。
Rimi's instincts were screaming in terror. Her heart started to pound and her body began to shake. Terrible memories assaulted her mind. Her dark past was threatening to come back. She shook her head gently and gripped the D-sword to give herself strength, then turned toward the direction of the voice. The huge device, Noah 2, and next to it was a tall man in a suit, and... Oh, Jesus Christ! Okay, wasn't expecting that right off the bat. Jesus Christ. Nanami Nishijo was being held there. A torn uniform, a bloody bandage on her right hand, a limp, slumped head, and she was terribly pale. Nanami was struck wordless at the sight. Nanami was struck wordless at the sight? I think they mean Rimi was struck wordless at the sight. Like Jesus, nailed to the cross. No, it wasn't a cross that held her captive. It was a terrible, almost malicious shape. All the evil in the world, all the chaos in the world, all the wickedness in the world. It was all these things and more. Is it like the evil D-sword?
君がこの1年半どこで何をしていたかについて興味はありませんが、困りますね。あまりうろちょろされると。
It definitely looks like a D-sword. But like... chaos. The man, Genichi Norose, had a calm voice, but there was a knife-like edge to it. Rimi forced herself to stand tall and glare at him.
ほう。まさかここに来たのはお友達を助けに来たという理由ですか？
ナナちゃん、話して。その子は何も関係ないでしょ。
では直接話してみてはどうですか？
Rimi was caught off guard by Norose's offer. She was trying her best to stand strong, but the second she'd seen his face, her legs had started to shake. She called out to Nanami without moving from where she stood.
ナナちゃん。
Nanami's head suddenly moved. Her closed eyes opened just a little. She looked up. Her empty eyes stared at Rimi.
リミさん大丈夫今助けてあげるから
In the middle of her sentence, Nanami's face began to twist in pain. Her face was pale and her breathing was ragged. I feel like I shouldn't be surprised by anything at this point, but like, it really does catch me off guard sometimes. So it's just like, oh, okay. That's a lot of blood. And at this point, I don't even, like, I can't even say for sure if that's her blood. I don't, like, it's hard to say anything for certain with this game so far.
痛いよ
I'm gonna guess it's her blood, but I cannot be certain.
右手が痛いの
And then her body fell from the cross.
タナちゃんねえリミさん
Nanami was lying on the ground, only her head moving. It was as if she was looking for something.
ナナのバングル知らないかな見つからなくてナナのバングルどこにもなくて
She stood up slowly and began to search her surroundings with her left hand.
バングルだね分かった私知ってるからだから私と一緒にここを出よう病院に行こうね手が痛いよナナはなんでリミさんのことを知ってるんだっけ前にどこで会ったんだっけリミさんなのリミさんがナナのバングル嘘どうしてひどいよ
Rimi realized that something was wrong with Nanami. Oh, you don't say! And turned her eyes toward Norose. I think something fishy's going on here. He smirked as he silently watched their conversation.
ナナちゃんに何を見せてるの
Nanami's gaze was locked on Rimi. She slowly staggered to her feet like a newborn fawn. She reached her right arm toward Rimi. The bandage was soaked with blood. Looked like her hand was still attached. But bright red drops, one after another, were falling from it. A pool of blood was forming at her feet. She needed medical treatment fast. But despite her hurry, Rimi couldn't get any closer. Getting closer to Nanami meant getting closer to the man next to her. Rimi almost cried out of sheer frustration.
リミさんが持ってたのナナちゃん帰ろうこっちに来てどうして持ってくの返してナナのバングル返して落ち着いてナナちゃんお兄からもらったナナの大切なあれは誰にも渡したくないの返して返してよナナちゃん返して
A pained scream. A drop of blood fell from Nanami's wrist. Oh shit! The drop crystallized before it hit the ground. Something that looked like mineral ore appeared out of nowhere around it. Like some kind of inorganic shell had burst through a hole in space. The crystal and ore instantly fused into a single shape. That's very subtle. It seemed far more like a cross than the thing which had been holding Nanami. Or maybe a sword stabbing straight downward, rejecting everything around it.
これはディソード
Alright, that's... how many is that now? I think I'd be keeping track at this point. We got Senna, we got Ayase, we got, Kozupi, Rimi. So this makes 5, right? And then Takumi kind of Takumi. It kind of, but not really. I don't know. I mean, you know what? The real one probably well, no, because the real one keeps trying to get the other one to find it, so he probably doesn't have one. Because that wouldn't make sense. If he had one, why would he why would he create a delusion of himself to get that version? Why am I speculating? I'm too smooth brained to speculate. Nanami held the sword to her chest, embracing it. Her tears of sorrow fell on it, and it began to flash crimson like a beating heart. That is a lot of blood. So was the hand real, and that was her hand, and now it's back on her? The reason there's so much blood is because it's not actually on there. It's just like tied on there. I don't. Was the hand? My brain. All right. So this Nanami is okay. Is this Nanami real Nanami's delusion, or is this also real Takumi's delusion? This version of Nanami. That's what I'm wondering now. That's like the first thing I want to know. This is getting weird. This is getting so... There's so many threads, and I can't keep track of them all. Alright, I need to calm down. I need to calm down and just follow the breadcrumbs where they lead. Nanami was crying. She was trying to hold back her tears, but they fell from her eyes anyway. I gave her a single glance. Then I looked back up to the ceiling and returned to counting the rust spots. I would be a little taken off guard by the fact, like, she knows exactly what he meant by that. I feel like normally you'd be like, what? You're a delusion. What the hell does that even mean? But she seems to know exactly what he means and what he's implying, which is weird to me, but carry on. That's right. Nanami was right. I remembered Nanami from when she was little. I had my own memories of being young too. I think she's also a delusion. This one is. So, I remembered being in elementary school and not being able to go on the field trip, and how I'd watched the bus with my classmates on it get into an accident. I even remembered Mr. Saito, my teacher who died. Who should I believe? Rimi, a girl who I didn't even know, or my little sister who I'd grown up with? Wasn't the answer obvious? Rimi was lying. Nanami was telling the truth. And if Nanami was real, then so was I. That is technically a true statement. This statement is technically accurate, I think. Based on what I have come to understand. Yes, that is true. I reached out a hand toward Nanami. Her existence was my only hope. She was the one thing that could possibly save me. Oh my god, if she disappears like right now. Holy moly. If Nanami's warmth was real, I could prove that I was real too. Nanami had been sobbing, but now she wiped away her tears. She turned her red-lidded eyes to me and gave me a sad smile. I nodded, again and again, again and again. If that would save Nanami, then it would save me. I'd happily give my bratty little sister as many hugs as she wanted. After all, she was my only little sister in the whole wide world. Nanami, I wanted to feel her warmth as soon as I possibly could, so when she slowly leapt into my arms, I wrapped my hands around her, tightly, tightly, and tried to hold her.
Honey.
I just don't see this ending well right now. And just before I could, you son of a bitch! Like I knew it was gonna happen, but I was kind of hoping it wouldn't happen right now because, you know, psychological trauma and all that. A pale light appeared around her body, and she dissolved into a million glowing pieces of light. The lights burst like bubbles in the air, one after another. My outstretched hand touched nothing. There was no warmth at my chest. The front of my eyes. Nanami disappeared. Yep. Yeah. Yep, that'll do it. Yeah. Nanami Nishijo held the D-sword she created from her blood tight to her body, using only her left hand. Her right hand just hung alongside it. The blood dripping from the bandage was running down the small groove in the blade before falling to the ground.
痛い。知ってたの？ナナちゃんがギガロマニアックスだって。
Rimi's question was directed at Norose, who'd been watching the events unfold silently. No matter how much hate was in her gaze, he seemed completely uninterested.
偶然の産物というものですよ。
ナナちゃんにひどいことしたくせに何が偶然なの？
君の時のような苦労はしませんでした。我が社にはすでに覚醒させるためのマニュアルが確立していますから。もっとも西条匠にだけはそのマニュアルも通用しませんが、イレギュラーな化け物は扱いづらいことこの上ない。
化け物だなんて言わないで。
君も化け物だからですか？
そういう話はしてない。
虚無から生まれたものだからと言い換えた方が良かったですね。
Rimi looked away, biting her lip in frustration. She was still shaking. See, now I don't know when he refers to Takumi, is he talking, which Takumi is he talking about? Does he know about the other Takumi? Does, like, real Takumi, his influence seems to spread to everybody except Rimi so far. She seems to be the only one who knows that. Whoops. It doesn't matter. I questions. I have too many questions. Oh, I forgot to plug that in. Oh, Christ. Oh, no. Damn it. Alright. Norose, however, seemed completely unfazed. He gave Nanami's head a loving pat. Oh, good. Nanami didn't react. Her head was slumped, and she was taking one shallow breath after another.
闇のある一点だけを灯しているスポットライト。その周囲には無数の死体が転がっているのでしょうが、誰にも見えない。君自身にもです。
そんな話やめて。
例えば君が自殺をしたら、スポットライトは数十センチ横にずれて君を闇で覆ってくれるでしょう。そして何も知らない別の誰かが代わりにスポットライトを浴びる。
Norose shrugged and fell silent.
痛い。ナナちゃんを解放してほしいんだけど。
拘束は解きましたが。
連れて帰る。
構いませんよ。もう用済みです。
ナナちゃん、帰ろう。その件は消して。だったらバングル返して。返すから。
Rimi knew where Nanami's hand was being kept. On that day, Then, oh my god, she took it. She took the hand. The night when Nanami's right hand had been delivered to Takumi's room. The night when Takumi had been humiliated on the roof of O-Front. Rimi had taken the hand from his fridge. Of course she did. Shogun had it now. It was being kept cold so that it wouldn't rot. The bangle was there too. So she doesn't have her hand right now. They said the bandage was around her wrist and implied that she had the hand. I swear I'm not making that up. Okay, so she does not have a hand right now. Okay. It's I'm terrible. I'm terrible reading comprehension apparently. Nanami's voice was getting more and more violent.
一つ聞きますが、
Norose suddenly interrupted them. In her mind, Rimi grimaced.
西条匠にとっては君たち二人のうちどちらがより重要度が高い存在ですか？
Rimi looked down.
リミさんなんか
Nanami looked up. Light had returned to her empty eyes. They were abnormally bright. Rimi quickly brought up her sword, but froze inside the sudden darkness. The lights had been cut. Whether it was an accident or deliberate, Rimi couldn't tell.
負けちゃダメ
Rimi whispered to herself. Her voice made the air vibrate, but quickly melted away inside the darkness. She She realized she couldn't hear the awful rumbling coming from Noah 2 anymore either. She didn't like the dark. It brought back memories. Rimi looked around her. There was darkness everywhere. Not a trace of light was to be found. Could she not see because it was dark? Or could she not see because her vision wasn't working? She couldn't tell which way was up and which way was down. She didn't even know where she was. The darkness worked its way inside all her senses. She couldn't even sense her own body anymore. It was like her body had transformed into a gas. Like her mind was leaking from its vessel. Past and present melted together, and Rimi's memories began to mix with one another. When was it now? When was the past? A single ray of light shone down into the perfect darkness, and in the center of the circular spotlight, she saw herself, crouching on the ground with her arms wrapped around her knees. Rimi stared at herself from within the darkness. It was just like back then. Back then. Rimi had nothing. She woke up one day to find herself locked up, tortured. The psychological pain was worse than the physical pain. Every day was hell, and every day all she could do was endure. Rimi didn't know where she'd been before that. When had she been imprisoned here? How? How long had they been torturing her? Rimi didn't know. Somehow it didn't feel like amnesia to her. It felt like she'd only begun to exist the moment she'd woken up here. Maybe the personality which had inhabited this body before had killed itself within a delusion to escape from the pain. And maybe the current Rimi was born to take its place. Maybe there had been many different personalities before her. Maybe the name Rimi Sakihara was one that changed with each new personality. There's no true me inside me. Something moved within the darkness. Rimi stood up and slowly approached it. When she moved, the spotlight went with her. And then she saw what it was. It was Rimi, lying on the ground, dead. Rimi whispered, taking care not to look at Rimi as she spoke. Okay, this is like... Oh my god, already! It's too soon for this!
何番目私は
Rimi's eyes began to twitch violently. Tears flowed from the corners of her eyes. The D-sword slipped from her hand. She dropped to her knees where she stood. Like a child, she covered her face with her hands, shaking her head weakly. I'm sorry. Couldn't take it. Nanami watched expressionlessly, and Narose gave a small, bored snort. Oh yeah, I just saw the hand, yeah. Yep. There was nothing left of Nanami. She disappeared right in front of me. She hadn't even been real.
どこだよ。出てきてよ。いるんだろ。また、いたずらか。隠れてるんだ。やめろよ。
Jesus Christ. The tears made it hard for me to see. I wiped them away, but they just kept coming. Hot little drops of water. But even their heat, and even the emotions that were making me weep, were delusions. Because I myself was a delusion. Nanami was a delusion too. I was an idiot to get my hopes up. They'd been mercilessly dashed.
ねえ、いつ、この妄想って、冷めるの？早く、冷めてよ。
I didn't even know who I was talking to, but I wanted someone, anyone to hear me.
この妄想が冷めたら、僕は、本当はイケメンなんだ。そうに決まってる。物分かりのいい妹と、優しい姉がいるんだ。かわいい彼女と付き合ってて、その子がリミとかセナみたいな電波女じゃなくて、セーラさんみたいないい子なんだ。
あなたは妄想の存在なんだよ。
I fell to the ground, burying my head in a pile of garbage, and clutched Saratan tightly. I slammed my fist into the floor, trying as hard as I could to avert my eyes from reality, but I couldn't. Rimi's words kept echoing in my head again and again.
死にたい。死にたいよ。どうして誰も僕を殺してくれないんだ。ねえ、セーラタン殺して、僕を殺して。
This is deeply upsetting.
そんなに死にたいの？
死にたい。こんなのもう嫌だ。自分の存在が嫌だ。何も考えたくない。生きていたくない。
かわいそうなタッキー。
I literally don't have anything to say about this. This is
だったら
wholly
すぐに
depressing.
殺される方法を教えてあげる。
Wow, thank you, my wife. Saratan was always there to help me.
とりあえず外に出るんさ。
外に？
I stood up as I was told. I almost tripped over the garbage on the floor several times, but I managed to make it outside. I didn't have the slightest doubt about what I was being told. Saratan was the one person who would never betray me. She was my wife. She wasn't 3D. When I got outside, I heard a strange sound. It felt like I'd heard it somewhere before.
この音を追いかけて。
追いかけたら殺してもらえるの？
そういうこと。
優しく殺してもらえるかな？
私が保証するよ。
よかった。やっと死ねる。
The sound was my savior. It was a bell of salvation, leading me to a land of peace. I followed the sound, with Saratan still in my hand. It kept getting closer and closer and then farther away, as if it was leading me somewhere. Whenever I got close to it, it would suddenly get further away. Whenever I felt like I would lose it, it would get closer and wait for me. As if it had a will of its own. A sound with a will of its own. It reminded me of Shogun. For a moment, I saw his face, but then I stopped caring. It didn't matter if it was him behind this or not. If someone wanted to kill me, I'd happily let them. I stopped even trying to figure out what the source of the sound might be. I was going to die soon anyway, and since I didn't exist, there was no point in thinking about it. I let my mind become blank, and staggered toward the source of the sound, almost unconsciously, like a moth to a flame. The area around me started to get more and more noisy. I stopped being able to hear the sound. I grimaced and started to find the source of all the noise. And then I froze. At some point, I'd arrived in the middle of Scramble Crossing. Oh god, why is everybody looking at me? I know they're looking at him, but it feels like they're looking at me. I don't like it. Stop it. The noise was from the huge crowds gathering in the square. It was so cramped that I could barely move. Everyone was pushed up against each other, like on the train during rush hour. There were even more people here than there had been when I'd been up at the top of O-Front. I remembered Grimm saying something about this. Something about a big event in Scramble Crossing tonight. Sarah, what's going on here? I only have bad memories of this place. Why had she brought me here? No, no more delusions. No more! No, 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 no! Where's the person who's going to kill me? Is it her? She real? The crowd was gigantic. It was a cold autumn night. Why would all these people be packed so tightly here in the square? And then the crowd in front of me parted, like Moses parting the sea in the Bible. A single road beckoning me forward. They'd been waiting for someone. Me. It's the oh Jesus Christ, that font. It's the first annual Let's lynch the fake psychic Takumi Nishijo while we all scream whose eyes are those party in Shibuya. I'm sorry, did that really party is the thing here? Offline. I guess this does qualify, yeah? A real world meeting between members of an online community, such as a chat room or anonymous message board. I mean, sure. Exam results? You delete what? What the your delusion. Is this something I already read? Did I miss? Your delusion level is within normal parameters. Your real life is relatively stable with time for both hanging out with friends and watching TV or playing video games by yourself. Humans as a species need a certain amount of delusions. They're what makes life worth living. You're a person who is capable of enjoying delusions, as well as using them to make your real life a better place. Balancing your time between delusions and reality is very important. Devoting too much time to your delusions may turn you into a creepy weirdo. ISA's comment. Sing, that's what you should do. The act of singing takes place in the real world. The emotions you put into a song takes place in the world of your delusions. You can have both of them, delusions and reality. And you can share them with many other people. US comment. There's nothing creepy about enjoying anime, but make sure it's not the only thing you ever talk about. What the fuck is this? Diagnosis? Was that there the whole time, and I like just now flipped over to it on accident, or did it just now appear? I'm so confused. What the fuck is this? Okay, so diagnosis, good. I've been diagnosed or talk. I don't know if this is. I don't know what's happening. Okay, so. All right. That incredibly long title came into my head, and I laughed. I didn't want any pain, but if I could die here, I was willing to put up with it.
僕が死ぬにはぴったりの祭りじゃないか。
I understood what Sarah Tan meant by giving me a second chance. I hadn't been able to die last time, so now she'd given me another chance. I began to work my way through the crowd, an idiot smile forming on my mouth. I found myself at a place where rows and rows of reporters were lined up with cameras and microphones. The media seemed on edge, just like the rest of the crowd. There was a lot of noise, but nobody seemed to be having fun. There was none of the joy and excitement that they'd shown when I'd embarrassed myself at O-Front. They were all staring at me. Their eyes were cold and sharp. There was something akin to murder in their gaze. My hopes grew even higher. Kill me. Kill me. Kill me! I looked up to see all 4 of the big TVs in the crossing were showing me walking through the crowd. It was being broadcast all around Japan too, I was sure. If 40% of the country was watching it, that meant 48 million people would be there to watch me die. I'm not even real, and you want to watch me die. I'm totally worthless, and you want to watch me die. You really want to watch me die? You're a bunch of idiots. That's fine with me. Watch all you want, as long as you kill me. I stood in front of the line of cameras and microphones. Oh boy. All the flashes on the camera went off at once. Dazzling lights flashed and disappeared. I squinted in the brightness. An older male reporter I recognized from television was the first to speak.
西尾君、今回はどんなパフォーマンスを見せてくれるんだい？ところで、実は今日の昼に逮捕された貼り付け事件の容疑者は実行犯に過ぎなくて黒幕がいるっていう話があるんだけど、どう思うかな？
Why was this guy being friendly? And what did he mean, what are my thoughts on this? What was that supposed to mean? Was he asking me for my opinion? To be fair, whenever they asked a famous criminologist on TV for his opinion, he would always say the same boring things. It wouldn't be too hard to do a better job than that. But I didn't care. I'd stopped caring about New Gen entirely. I'd come here to have somebody kill me, not to answer questions from reporters. I didn't even have the strength left to do it if I wanted to.
それでね、西尾君、ズバリ聞くけど、真犯人と目される人物は通称その目誰の目と言われていて、それは君なんじゃないかっていう噂があるんだよね。
そうかもね。
My whisper was picked up by the microphones and sent all throughout Shibuya by the big TVs. A murmur arose from the crowd. They were starting to become even more murderous. Just kill me. I want to be free. Don't make me put up with this bullshit. But the microphones got even closer. They were pushing right up against my mouth. Like a bursting dam, the other reporters began to shower me with questions.
それは事件への関与を認める発言と考えていいんですか？
現実とゲームとの区別ができなくなるような経験はありますか？
逮捕された狛江田容疑者との関係について聞かせてください。
人を殺したのはやはりゲーム感覚だったりします？
Maybe I am like a video game character, in a sense. Somebody reset me. Let me get a game over. And when I said that, the tension in the crowd around me reached its peak and burst.
死ね！
人でなしきちん
殺してやるよ！
地獄に落ちろ！
死刑にしろ！ぶち殺せ！殺人鬼！
A wave of people crashed toward me. I was caught up in its swell, screams and shouts all around me. I was smashed between the press of people. I found myself picked up off the ground, pressed by bodies from all directions. As my feet left the ground, I struggled, but helplessly. They struck me in the head, hit me in the arm. But it wasn't enough pain to kill me. Even when I thought they would strangle me, I still didn't resist. I let the chaos have its way with me, and suddenly, the pressure disappeared. I fell to the ground. Seiratan slipped from my hand. She rolled along the asphalt. People's legs were all around me, like trees in a forest. My wife was rolling between them. I reached my hand out desperately, but I couldn't grab her. Her dazzling smile, the smile that had kept me going, was crushed by someone's leather shoes. Then someone kicked her tiny body and sent her flying. A woman's red heel came down on her torso, crushing it. I don't even know what to say.
Sarah.
I have no thoughts left in my poor brain. I called out, but there was no answer. My one ally was gone. The sorrow threatened to crush me. Now I had no reason to stay alive at all. I looked up and saw the walls of people that had even blocked out the night sky. Nobody noticed I was crouching here. I was right here and nobody saw. I was begging them to kill me and nobody heard. That's actually really funny. The idea that there's like hundreds, maybe thousands of people here to murder this guy, but there's so many people that they can't find him. That's really funny. Like conceptually, that's really funny. It's absurd. Why was everyone ignoring me? Because you're not real. Suddenly, I felt it on my neck, or maybe not. The prickling, the gaze of God. Oh, Christ.
君は
It was in my head.
ここで死んじゃダメだ。
The voice echoed. I gasped.
理想度を手に入れて。
Oh my God, with the sword again. I clenched my jaw hard.
将軍
I looked for his wheelchair amid the forest of legs. I looked for some asshole in a Darth Spider cosplay. So this whole thing was your doing, wasn't it? I should have known. Are you going to show up in that stupid cosplay again and threaten me? Are you trying to make me do the same thing you tried to make me do before? All I want is death. I don't want to be a living freak show anymore.
あの時の自称将軍は僕じゃない。僕はコスプレはしないよ。
I like how that's his main argument. He's like, you see, that couldn't have been me. That the thing you thought was me and you saw wasn't me. Why, you ask? It's simple. I don't cosplay. Ah, now it all makes sense. Of course. Why didn't we think of that? I don't care. Just kill me already.
あいつらが動き出しているんだ。この場は今以上の混乱になるよ。
I feel like I should be looking for the sword right now. Is this another one of them I spies? I'm looking for it. I feel like it's gonna be really obvious, so I probably won't have to look for it, but I'm looking for it. I spy with my little eye. Not a single sword. They?
すべての黒幕。この混乱を引き起こした者たち。混乱を利用して利己を追求しようとする者たち。彼らを止められるのは君だけなんだ。
I sat up. The yelling and screaming was still going on above me. Nobody was looking at me at all. The crowd and the media were all jumbled up now. They were grabbing each other, swearing at each other, hitting each other. What had gotten into them?
沈黙の兵器。ノア2はすでに稼働してる。この混乱が起とされた一番の目的は無差別人体実験。
Something hard hit my head. It hurt badly. It hurt badly enough that I thought my skull had been busted open. I put my hands to my head and pressed hard to dull the pain. I've always found it fascinating how that works. Like, yes, find the thing that hurts and press on it and it stops hurting. And it actually does, it's weird. I looked around with tear-stained eyes to see a fist-sized rock nearby. There was a little bit of blood on it. Someone must have thrown it and hit me. It was an awful, aching pain. When I put my hand on the wound, I felt something wet and slick. My fingertips were stained with blood. My blood. I heard a loud pop sound in the distance, then a woman's scream. Oh god. Who brought the gun? A gunshot? Was there someone here with a gun? Why was everybody so excited? Why was everybody so eager to fight somebody they'd never met? Why was everybody acting so bizarrely? Weren't they all waiting for me to be the bad guy? The sacrifice?
渋谷の GE レートバイオリズムがありえないくらいに上昇してるんだよ。言ったでしょ、無差別人体実験だって。この場にいる人たちは今見えない攻撃を受けているんだ。
I heard that sound, that creaking sound, the rusty sound, like the last gasps of a dying woman. The sound of a wheelchair's wheels. So many people were crammed into the square, walls of people, waves of people, roiling and undulating. But as Shogun wheeled forward, no one collided with him. No one tried to stop him. He came right toward me. His body was so small, so frail and thin. He was covered in wrinkles. It looked like his bones might break at the slightest touch. His eyes were cloudy. I couldn't tell what he was looking at, what he was seeing. I couldn't take my eyes off him. The noise of the crowd around me suddenly became distant.
ずっと君を見ていたよ。
It was the same voice I'd heard it when we first met. It wasn't the strange voice I'd heard at Ofront.
君は誰なの？僕は君だよ。
I wonder if he's not the one. So yeah, he's not that. He's not interested in talking me getting the D sword. He's not the one who's been like doing the thing to get him the D sword. I don't know why I just realized that. Yeah, so it was. What does that change in my brain? What does that change? I don't know. I can't think right now. And with those two words, I understood.
僕を妄想して生み出したのも神の自然の正体も君だったんだね。
This man was my creator, the person whose delusion had created me, and someone I would never ever be able to defeat.
君の名前は西条匠。
The real me, the original.
君はいくつなの？君と同い年だよ。君の設定とね。
17 years old, and he was so small and wrinkled.
このままだと世界が死んじゃう。ノア2にあらゆる人の心は支配されちゃう。だから君に託したんだ。
Entrusted what to me?
意味がわかんないよ。そんなの僕には関係ない。頼むよ。僕を消して。今すぐに消してほしい。
The wrinkles on Shogun's face moved. It looked like he was trying to change his expression, but I couldn't tell what it was supposed to be.
全部僕のせいなんだ。僕が IR2 を妄想しちゃったせいで。なんとか止めようとしたけど、僕はこんな体だから満足に動くこともできない。それで君を生み出した。君に止めてもらうために。そんなの知らない。僕は君のコピーだけど、僕はやりたくない。コピーだけが苦しまなくちゃいけないなんて、そんなの嫌だ。死なせてよ。君はコピーじゃない。もう一人の僕だ。つまりコピーじゃないか。君のしてることはすごく残酷だ。悪かったって思ってるよ。でも他に方法はなかった。今世界の命運は君にかかっていると言っても過言じゃないんだ。だからそんなのリミに頼めばいいじゃないか。知り合いなんでしょ。
Know her. I said those words deliberately. She might have been his girlfriend, or his friend. I didn't want to think about either possibility. And then I realized how I felt, even though it was far too late. I was jealous of my original, even though I was just his copy. I was so ugly, so disgusting. What right did I have to be jealous? My feelings made me want to throw up. I felt even more depressed. I just wanted to die.
リミはナナミを助けに行って逆に捕まっちゃったんだ。リミはね、僕を救おうとしてくれていた。その理由は君も知っているよね。
あれは空。あの空はどうしてあんなに泣きたくなるくらい青いのかな。
それを望んだから。
私は望んでない。
僕が望んだんだ。ここは君の心象世界であると同時に僕の心象世界でもあるから。
I'm lost again. I thought I was following and now I'm lost again. Remy turned to look at me. She seemed confused.
あなた誰？ここには私以外はいないはずなのに、あなたは別の私。
違うよ。
だったら誰？どうやってここに来たの？私の心の中だよ。ずっと暗闇しかなかった。光は私に当たるスポットライトだけ。それなのにあなたが来た途端に暗闇がなくなって空ができた。
妄想がシンクロしたんだ。君の力がとても強かったから。
そう。
Remy looked back up at the sky. An azure sky so clear it looked like you could see forever.
私本物の空見たことないんだ。私っていう人格が生まれた時にはね、もう暗い部屋に閉じ込められてた。心の中も外も闇しかなかった。そこからは絶対に出してもらえないの。私今死のうとしてたんだ。心を自殺させるの。きっとこれまでの私もそうしてきたと思うし。でもせっかくあなたが空を持ってきてくれたから、この光景を記憶に刻んでおいていいかな。次の私がまたこうして想像できるように。
死にたいの？
うん。
本当の空を見てみたいとは思わないの？
ねえ、空って本当にあるのかな？
あるよ。でも現実の空はこの空よりも汚れてる。
どこにある？あの空はどこにあるの？
君が望めばどこにでも。
望んでいいの？
もちろんだよ。
どうやって望むの？
光は電磁場の波。その振動現象を人の視覚は色として捉えるんだ。自分のデッドスポットに望む色を当てはめてごらん。そうすれば。
Poor brain.
君の望む世界の色を作り出せる。世界は君の望みに応えてくれるよ。
Days, or perhaps months passed after that meeting. Remy came to my hospital room. She and I were both staying in the same hospital. And we both had the same gigalomaniac power. Though whether we should be proud of it or hate it, I didn't know.
お兄、お客さんだよ。ねえねえ、誰？彼女さん、いつの間に？やるね、お兄ってば。また会えたね。
She looked so tired. Her skin was sickly pale, her hair was a mess and far too long, her nails were cracked, and she kept squinting like she wasn't used to bright light.
本物の空は見られた？
うん。あ、そうだ。
Nanami had been watching us carefully. Suddenly, she clapped her hands together like she'd remembered something.
ナナ、お洗濯してこなくちゃ。リミさんでしたっけ？どうぞごゆっくり。
Nanami left. Remy and I watched her go, neither with much emotion. Remy turned back to me.
匠はいつから入院してるの
5年ぐらい。
退院の予定は
ないよ。僕の余命はあと2年ぐらいだと思うし。
私はあなたのおかげで頑張ることができた。終わりなんて絶対にないと思ってた。でもあなたが教えてくれた空を見るまで頑張ろうと思った。そしたら急に外に出してもらえた。用済みになったって言った方が正しいかもしれないけど、
そう。
私はあなたに救われたの。だから今度は私があなたの力になりたい。
そんなの気にしなくていい。わざわざ僕に会いに来なくてもいいよ。君にはこれから普通に生きてほしい。
普通の生き方なんてわからないから。
Remy's past, Remy's feelings, Remy's resolve. I remembered them all, and it made my chest tighten up in pain.
なんでリミは僕に近づいてきたの？
彼女は君の近くにいることで、君の行動、君に接触してくる人間のことを監視して、君を覚醒させないようにしていたんだ。彼女を恨まないであげて。彼女はただおせっかいなだけなんだ。
There was a sad echo in Shogun's voice.
巻き込みたくなかったのに。彼女は僕がどれだけ止めても聞いてくれなかった。勝手に僕に恩義なんか感じて、本当におせっかいだよ。
リミとナナミは誰に捕まってるの？
プロジェクトノアの責任者。すべての黒幕。野呂瀬源一。かつてリミを捕らえて 拷問していた男でもある。それなのにリミは、ナナミと僕と、そして君を助けるために、あの男のところへたった一人で乗り込んでいっちゃった。
The voice came back into my head. It was Rimi speaking, but she was saying things I'd never heard her say. They were words Shogun had heard. Oh.
リミ？
あ、うん。私、実は、ちょっとした報告があります。ナナちゃんを、これから助けに行こうと思って。
やめるんだ。君はあの男、ノロゼとはもう会いたくないでしょ？
私って信用されてないな。平気だってば。昔の話だしね。そもそも私の感情とナナちゃんを助けることとどっちを優先させるかなんて決まりきってることだよ。
ナナミを助けるのも、プロジェクトノアを止めるのも、僕のやるべきことだ。君は、そこまでしなくていいんだよ。
言ったでしょ。私はあなたの力になりたいって。それにタクには関わらせたくないの。
おせっかいだね。
そうかもね。あなたにしか言われたことはないけど。ねえ、ちょっとだけ語っちゃっていいかな。タクにね、いろいろひどいこと言っちゃったんだ。しかもそんなことしておいてすごく自分勝手なんだけど、私彼と一緒に過ごした時間はとっても楽しかったって思っちゃってるんだ。何もかもが妄想でまみれたまやかしでしかなかったのに。学生生活もあの学校に私やタクが通っていることも、大地と友達だっていうことも、私がタクと一緒にいようとしたことも、タクの存在そのものも。タクってどうしようもないくらい情けなくて、どうしようもないくらい弱くて、きっと普通の女だったら見向きもしないような男の子なんだよ。
I'm sure hearing all this makes me feel a lot better.
なのに私の心には楽しかったっていう気持ちがあるの。なのに私の心にはもっと一緒にいたかったっていう気持ちがあるの。この気持ちって何なのかな。
インプリンティングのようなものかもしれないね。
本能っていうことかな。それって意外とロマンチックかも。
君が楽しかったなら、きっ
Not the
と
first thing I would have thought
彼
of.
も楽しかったと思うよ。
そうだといいな。私はタクと似たようなものだから。肉体が妄想から作られた存在と、人格が妄想から作られた存在と、どっちも変わらないでしょ。だからタクのこと消したくなかった。消さなくちゃダメだって思ってたんだけどね。でもいつの間にか感情移入しちゃったみたい。タクにはごく普通に暮らしていってもらいたいの。私はタクミもタクも助けたい。ねえ、タクのことはそっとしておいてあげて。
そういうわけにはいかない。ノア2を破壊するために、彼は必要だよ。
私が何とかするから。
君はそんなことしなくていい。君こそ、ごく普通に暮らしていくべきだ。
さてと、そろそろ切るね。
リミ、やめて。
本当に大丈夫だって。あなたは何も心配しないで。 私が全部決着をつけてくるから。ね、匠。
I really just don't have lot to say right now. I'm just following the pieces, learning the plot. I'm getting a lot of answers here, and I'm liking it, but I got nothing. I got nothing to contribute. Now, far past the point when it could possibly matter, the warmth of Rimi's words filled my heart. She probably could have left out that middle bit about, you know, how pathetic you are, but what are you gonna do? She really was nosy. What could drive her to do all this? What could drive her to do so much for another person?
私はタクの味方だから。
My memories with Rimi came flooding back. We hadn't spent long together at all, and there were feelings hidden behind each word she'd spoke.
私が一緒にいてあげる。
For this past year and a half, I hadn't done much but play ESO and H games, along with some real money trading. I don't know why that detail specifically gets me, but it does. I'd spent all day on them, barely ever leaving the base. I'd almost never went to school. I never tried to talk to anybody. I was alive, but I'd lived my life like I was dead. But this past month or so had been totally different. Even if in the end she'd been lying to me.
朝一緒に学校行って。
She'd been there for me.
学校では休み時間にどうでもいいこと話して。
When I'd been afraid, she'd made me feel better.
お昼休みは一緒にご飯食べて。
She'd always been there to support a loser like me. She'd been there to make me feel better.
夕方一緒に帰って。
She'd given me a hug and held me in her arms.
帰るついでにたまにどこかのお店に寄ったりして。
I was a delusion, but she'd taught me about human warmth.
タクの部屋でちょっとだけおしゃべりして。
She could have erased me, but instead she tried to protect me.
それでまた明日ねって手を振って別れて。
She'd given me memories.
そんなのでいいなら私いくらでもしてあげるよ。
I'd only been alive a year and a half, but I could remember every instant I'd spent with Rimi.
そういうの結構憧れなんだ。
Aww. The small little gestures she made. The scent of her hair, that's a weird one. The sound of her breathing. So I feel like I've mentioned this before, but why do the ellipses sometimes are at the bottom and sometimes they're in the middle of the letter? It's starting to drive me nuts, especially with that last one, because it was both on the same screen. Why does it do that? Why are these ellipses like levitating? What is happening? The sparkle in her eyes. Why is this? Why? Why? I don't understand. Is it a different type of ellipses? And I'm bad at grammar? Did I miss a class? Did I miss like a day in English class? Is it a different type? So I just needed to get that out. This is like, it's bothered me up to now, but it's been very infrequent, but now it's like they're on the same screen. So I just had to say something. All right, moving on. The cheer in her voice, her gentle warmth. Oh, now I understand. I'm I'm in love with Remy. Disgusting! I chuckled at just how disgusting I was. A guy who didn't even exist, falling in love with somebody? Could a delusion even fall in love? Or was I just imagining things? I couldn't tell. I wanted to be honest about these feelings. Remy saw me as a friend, not as a potential boyfriend, and a creepy loser like me wasn't anywhere near worthy of her. But even if it was just one way, even if it was just for my own self-satisfaction, even if I was just a delusion, I wanted to do something to help someone, to help Remy before I disappeared. When a creepy otaku falls in love, it's creepy. When a delusion falls in love, it's creepy. But so what? Even if it's creepy, even if it's never going to happen, I didn't want these feelings to be a delusion or my imagination. Our memories of the past month were a shared awareness between me and Remy. Even if everything else was a lie, these memories and the feelings they created were real.
世界を救ってほしい。
Shogun spoke. I shook my head.
僕は勇者じゃない。人間でもない。そんな僕に世界を救えとか何を考えてるの？
君には本当に悪いと思ってるけど、君にやってもらうしかないんだ。
自分に謝るなんてバカみたいだ。
I glared at the real me. The real me stared back at the fake me.
僕は君が嫌いだ。
僕は君が羨ましいよ。
僕は世界のためになんか頑張らない。
What is that? Are those my speakers? Why are my speakers? Stop that. Stop. I can't even tell what.
世界を救うとか、そんなことどうでもいい。
I'd decide for myself the reason I was born.
ただ、僕はリミを助ける。
ありがとう。
The sounds around me returned. Oh yeah, the lynch mob. We forgot about them. The confusion around me had only increased. At this point, it was a riot. Oh my god! Oh, Jesus Christ! That guy's like exploding. Oh my, wow. I didn't even realize, yeah, the people at the bottom are much more violent than they were earlier, I think. Or I just didn't notice earlier. One or the other. Wow, that, yeah. Jesus Christ. I was surrounded by the smell of blood, by screaming, by pained moans, and the noise of some kind of machine, like a microphone feeding back onto itself. It was everywhere. Is it... Oh god. Is that what my speakers are doing? Am I next?
理想度を手に入れる方法を教えて。
They're coming for me.
君はすでにそれを知っているはずだよ。
Alright, D-Sword. Looking out for the D-Sword. Still playing I Spy for the fucking D-Sword. I looked up. I tried to find the D-Sword, blended in with the scenery. Flying rocks, tear gas smoke, people colliding all around me. I shut out all of it and searched for the sword I'd seen just an instant on the roof of Ofran. I should be able to see it. It should be there. Part of the scenery, blended in. Find it. The D-Sword is always by your side. Oh, I found it.
見つけた。
I think it's there. I think I found it. The building just to the right of the 107. There was a colorful vertical sign plastered to its side. It looked to me like the shape of a sword. I gulped nervously. I'd been able to see its shape on top of the O-front building too, but I hadn't been able to grab it.
自分の意志を強く持つんだ。迷っちゃダメだからね。君にはもう剣を手に入れる資格は十分にある。
I reached out from where I stood. If I was going to save the person I loved, I needed this sword. I needed it. I bit down on my lower teeth. This wasn't like last time. I was surprised at how calm my heart was. There was no fear. I couldn't let myself be afraid. But I wasn't calm either. Didn't you just say you were calm? My heart was calm, but I was not calm. There was an emotion burning and boiling up inside me. There was something I had to do, no matter what.
掴むんだ。
I was about 100 meters away from the 107. I moved my hand so that it seemed to overlap with the blade, and clenched. Yeah! My hand was reaching out into the empty open space, but I felt something. It wasn't cold or hot, or hard or soft. This sword was just right. I slowly pulled it toward me, holding it tight in my hand. Ripples appeared in the air, and out of the ripples it came. That is such a... oh man, that's really cool. That's a cool sword. It is a very protagonist sword. Like, I could absolutely see this being, like, the main lord sword in a Fire Emblem game. This is... far too long to be called a sword. So delicate, it felt like it could snap at any moment. Filled with an unearthly elegance, but not a trace of ornamentation. Pure malice that threatened to drain away your soul. Beautiful curves that inspired awe and fear. The flames decorating its hilt flickered in time with the beating of my racing heart. It didn't feel heavy at all. In fact, it felt like it had become one with my hand, like it had always been there, a part of my body. It didn't feel like I was really holding a sword at all. So this was a D-sword. I held it tight with both hands. Right now, I could real boot it too. If I could make the people around me aware of it too, this sword would become real. I didn't know how, so I just focused. Become real, I shouted in my mind. There was no more hesitation. The D-sword began to glow, as if in answer to my call. The decorative flames on the hilt became real, engulfing the blade in fire. I didn't feel any heat. The flames were soon absorbed by the whole blade. Oh my god, that's so cool. And with a violent shockwave, the D-sword glowed red. Some of the people around me saw the weapon and were watching in shock. But only a few. The others were still fighting and cursing one another. The riot showed no signs of stopping.
この暴動を引き起こしているトーターたちを探すんだ。彼らの持つ機械を破壊すれば、バイオリズムの高騰も収まる。
ポーター。
ノア2の端末としての存在。
Dudes with backpacks.
君はすでにそのヒントを見てきたはずだよ。君の頭の中に。それは記憶として刻まれている。
I awakened it, the thing I'd seen. No! 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 My heart! So you motherfucker! No!
返して7のバングル返して
地点 L2 の 8 0.62 メガ GE ハイスコアです。
どんな手品だこりゃ。
望み
我が社ではポーターと呼んでいます。言い換えればマインドコントロールのための部隊といったところでしょうか。
The things I'd seen unconsciously. Every time. The things I'd seen unconsciously. The things I'd unconsciously read with my mind.
僕は盗撮野郎ってことか。お似合いだね。
I let out a small, self-deprecating chuckle as Shogun calmly gave me my next directions.
チャネルを開放してポーターたちの心を読むんだ。コズピーのようにね。彼らはこのスクランブル交差点のどこかに居場所を探り当てて。
Unlock the channels. I didn't even have to think about how I'd do it. I'd already done it before I could even think about it. And when I did, the minds of all these people, their negative emotions, all became visible to me. It all came flooding in at once. Yeah, that doesn't sound fun. Malice, hatred, jealousy, lust, subservience, cowardice, frivolity, filth, cunning, indecency, ugliness, vulgarity, greed, madness, murder. The hidden ugliness of all these people was revealed to me in a way more direct, more cruel, more terrible than words. In a way more... All the negative emotions mankind could possess came at me in a torrent of images, enveloping my mind, shattering and violating it. They looked at me with disgust, hurt me with their words, spat on me. My nails were torn off. I was punched again and again in the face, kicked from behind. My hair was ripped out. My nose was bitten off. Jesus Christ. I didn't realize Hannibal Lecter was in the crowd. My eyeballs were pulled from their sockets. My tongue was yanked from my mouth. My blood was drained. I was burned by hot water. My anus was raped. That's fun. My genitals were smashed. My skin was torn off. My arms were cut off. All my bones broken. I was struck with blunt weapons. Stabbed with sharp ones. My organs were torn out. I was strangled. This is fun. This is just a fun little this is a fun little list. Thank you for this. Eaten by huge beasts. Pushed off high places. Drowned in water. Burnt in the flames. If I synchronized with them all, my mind would shatter. I felt like I was going crazy. I bit my teeth and tried as hard as I could to focus. Had Kozupi lived her whole life like this?
見るべき妄想をコントロールするんだ。全てを受信しちゃダメだ。標的を絞り込め。
Yeah, thanks for the advice. A little late, but thanks.
音を頼りにするんだ。
Sound. I listened as hard as I could, struggling to fight off the waves of delusions. All I could hear were voices. I shut them out and searched for the sound. I heard it, a mechanical sound. The sound Saratan had said would kill me. I'd heard it in the memories of others, too. Senna had used her D-sword to destroy the porter's backpack that had been emitting this sound. If I focused on it, I could hear a very specific delusion. There were multiple voices. There was more than just one porter here, it seemed.
3人いるみたいだ。
Oh my god. I love this song, by the way. I held my breath and took a step forward. The crowd was chaotic. Everyone in Scramble Crossing was moving around, fighting, without the slightest regard for any other human being. It was hard to walk straight. I hacked into the delusions of the people in the direction I was going. The people in front of me began to part. They made a path before me. 50 meters away, I saw a single man. There was nothing standing between us now. Our eyes met. He was pudgy, wearing a suit and carrying a backpack.
一人目。
I ran. I ran through the crowd, without running into anyone. Straight ahead, via the fastest possible route, trailing the D-sword behind me. When the porter saw me, he turned tail and tried to run, but I wouldn't let him. Just like Senna had done, I swung the huge D-sword, even taller than I was, in a horizontal arc. It still seemed to weigh nothing. I could control it like it was part of my body. Its tip sliced into the backpack. The backpack and its contents were vaporized, as if they'd been melted by something impossibly hot. The man dropped to his knees, holding his hands over his head to protect himself. I ignored him and headed for the second one. Directly beneath O-Front. Once again, the obstacles between us disappeared. A path formed. A man was standing there. He was rail thin and wearing jeans and a checkered shirt. His hair was long and his skin was sickly pale. He was holding his bag carefully, like it contained some dear treasure. He noticed me and immediately tried to hide within the crowd, but before he could, I threw the D-sword. Fly. I envisioned the scene in my delusion. It ignored all laws of physics, flying parallel to the ground and accelerating as it went. It subtly altered its course as it flew and rammed right through the porter's backpack. There was a small burst of light and the man toppled to the ground. One left. I ran over to the fallen man and recovered my D-sword. The third was in front of the Hachiko statue. I knew this one. I'd encountered them a few times before. Actually, in fact, I talked to her almost every day. Oh god. Now I'm trying to think. Whatever. I'll figure it out soon enough. The crowd parted, and once again a path was formed. At the end of it, I saw a woman who... Oh! I saw a woman who looked very out of place. She was in a white nurse's outfit.
あなたが3人目です。葉月
I
さ
can't
ん。
remember her name. Yeah.
いや、グリム。
Really? Huh. I did... Alright. She was Grim all along. The nurse who'd smiled so kindly at me at the hospital. Now she was glaring at me, daggers in her eyes. There was a large handbag in her hands. It was probably a NOAA 2 terminal.
真実を暴くんだ。彼女がしてきたことをこの場にいる人たちに提示すれば、この熱病のような混乱は収まる。
What she's done?
彼女がグリムなら、これまでの不自然な言動に君は気づいているはず。
My brain is too smooth. I'm just gonna let them explain it to me.
僕が最初に君に接触した時のことを思い出して。僕は君に貼り付け事件の予言をした。君への継承だった。でも僕よりも先に貼り付けを予言した人間がいる。
I remembered. I remembered the chat log from that night. I don't. That was so long ago for me. That was like chapter 1. Just before Shogun had spoken to me, Grim had left the room, along with a joke image he'd drawn. Yeah, that thing. It was the one that Hazuki had been drawing on the medical charts. It was a very poorly drawn picture, but what it showed was the crucified murder. And then there was what Grim had said about the New Gen murders, too. It's all happening right near your house, lol. I'd never told him I lived in Shibuya. And even just a few hours ago, Grim had said something that showed he knew I was Takumi Nishijo. You're famous. They'll all be excited to see you. And then the second time, I didn't even, nope. The second time I'd gone to the hospital, Hazuki had said this.
高階先生はもういません。
A week later, Dr. Takashina was found dead. I gulped.
あの人が真犯人。
I could find out if I looked into her mind. That's scary. That's a scary idea.
信仰の救いあれ。
Shino Hazuki was standing in the operating room of AH Tokyo General Hospital where she worked. It was late at night. On the bed was a young man, Chizuo Konoe. He'd been put into a state of semi-unconsciousness by a sleeping drug.
信仰の救いあれ
She kept repeating the same phrase over and over, like a mantra, as she rubbed her heavily pregnant belly. She slipped off her white uniform, sat down on the table, and picked up a knife. Oh, that's fun. Fun. Definitely not
救
terrifying.
いあれ
Jesus Christ. And then, with no anesthetic, she cut open her stomach. Fuck! Why? There was a deftness in her touch that would have made any gynecologist or surgeon envious. Despite having no training as a surgeon, and despite the pain that would come from slicing open her own stomach, she cut in clean, even lines. Blood and amniotic fluid poured from the open wound. Her face twisted in pain, and when she was done cutting, she reached a hand into her own stomach. Fuck me, dude. This is... Oh my god. And pulled out a blood-covered fetus. Okay, but why, though? The fetus wasn't fully developed, and the shock of being ripped from the wound had already ended its life. Hazuki cut the umbilical cord and gave her child a loving hug before placing it on the stand next to the operating table and sewing up her wounds. The whole operation took less than an hour, and the whole time she was exposed to an incredible pain in her abdomen, the kind of pain that would have long since knocked a normal person out. I mean, that and the blood loss, right? Like, how is she not out? She stood up from the operating table and brought the baby over to the man in the bed. On the bed. She looked down on the unconscious man with bloodshot eyes before stabbing the knife hard into his belly. There was none of the grace and exactness she'd shown when cutting her own stomach. The man woke up from the pain, but his limbs had been tied down tightly to the bed, and there was no way for him to escape. She yanked the knife across his stomach, oblivious to his screams. It tore through the flesh and skin. Blood spurted out, splashing on her face. I like how... Okay. I'm gonna finish this, and then I have something to say about this. I have some... She put her hands into the open wound, and then she yanked it open as hard as she could. The sound of ripping meat filled the operating room. The man's body began to twitch, and the pain made him slip in and out of consciousness. When she saw the wound was big enough, Hazuki smiled gently, and then she took her own baby and jammed it into the wound. Thank you! Very necessary, thank you.
これがあなたの記憶
Oh my god.
なんですね。
I just want to say that this entire game, I have made it clear. I think I've said it multiple times that the most upsetting of all the crimes, all the murders, all the new gen murders, the one that most upset me and was most disgusting to me was Pregnant Man. And so there's something special about the fact that right now they have decided to, in depth, go into that one in particular. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Chaos Head Noah. I appreciate that. Thank you for all the nightmares. I will be enjoying those shortly. They knew it was the worst one. They knew it was the one that I feel targeted by this. I feel like they awful. Shino Hazuki was watching the video in shock. There were 4 big TVs in Scramble Crossing, and all of them were showing her memories. Oh good, everybody gets to be traumatized with me. Fun. She couldn't understand how it had happened. It had to be Takumi Nishijo's gigalomaniac powers.
あなたの記憶です。
Takumi Nishijo spoke with his head down and D-sword in hand. The riot had calmed itself instantly. Now there was only silence. The thousands of people who'd been fighting were now all staring up at the screen. Some turned pale and looked away. Some threw up on the spot. The media were trying to turn their cameras on Hazuki. She was blinded by one camera flash after another.
あなたがニュージェネ事件の真犯人だったんだ。
私の記憶を映像に投影したんですね。
もう言い逃れはできませんよ。胎児とあなたの DNA を鑑定すればわかることです。どうしてあんなことを。ねえクリム。
ナイトハルト、すべては教祖様のお言葉なんですよ。
Hazuki put her hand into the handbag on her shoulder. It contained the Noah 2 terminal port and a surgical knife. Oh, good. I imagine one of these things is going to become very relevant in a moment. She grabbed the knife and put it up against her neck. As a nurse, she knew exactly where the carotid artery was. Hazuki smiled at Takumi Nishijo, and her kind smile, the one she always showed her patients. I'm still thinking about the you know was quickly stained red by the blood spurting from her neck.
Espada.
救世主だわ。
Christ. Someone whispered. Only after I could feel many gazes upon me did I realize she was talking about me. Shino Hazuki had committed suicide by cutting her own throat, and in front of a huge crowd of people. Maybe it would be more accurate to say she'd murdered herself. I could still smell the disgusting scent of her blood. The riot had completely calmed down. Shino Hazuki's memories, displayed on the huge screens, were the perfect way to calm the people's excitement. Everyone had fallen dead silent at the shocking footage. It's funny because, like, if people weren't already rioting, I feel like that would definitely start a riot. So I guess because people were already rioting, it stopped the riot. Because people were just like, what the fuck? Blood was still pouring from her corpse. Several people walked over to her. They started to kick her dead body. It was the corpse of a murderer. Did that mean there was no need to show it any respect? Yeah, a lot of people think that. Were they going to chop off her head and display it somewhere, like they did back when they were still samurai about? How much of a difference was there between her and the people kicking her body? Humans were such ugly creatures, including me. The media crowded around their big scoops like packs of hyenas. Half went to Hazuki's body, the other half to me.
西尾君、お見事でした。
今のは超能力ですか？やはりエスパーだったんですね。すごいです。
今日のこの集まりは初めから真犯人をおびき寄せるためのものだったの？
あなたの超能力は何歳頃に現れたものなんですか？
子供の頃のあだ名は神道とか呼ばれたことある？
今後警察の捜査に協力する予定は？
うちの局の番組に出てくれないかな？
Words of praise, one after another.
西条、よくやったぞ！お前すげえよ！
Friendly words, one after another. I felt the emptiness in all of them. What was the difference between a delusion and a fake image created by the media? There probably wasn't much of one, if there was one at all. Isn't there something he needs to be doing right now? Isn't... Priorities, man. It was just like last... Oh my god, I have to turn down my headphones so I can hear myself talk. It was just like last time. The heat I'd felt when they were looking up at me from the bottom of the Oakland building. I screamed. I couldn't take it anymore. I started to cry. It felt so sad. It felt so stupid. I just had to cry. I was no hero.
僕はキモオタでセーラタンのエロいフィギュアにハーハーしてる変態だ。
Yeah, that sucks that got busted. I mean, he's got like 20 more, I know, but there's pieces of it all around now.
18歳未満だけどエロゲーして萌えって言ってる男だ。頭の中じゃ街を歩く女どもを裸にひんむいてエロい妄想してる。それが僕だ。
My face was covered with tears and snot. I'd forgotten that all of Japan was watching me on live TV. Yikes. I hadn't thought about how I was embarrassing myself again. I was a loser with no social skills, no ability to read the room.
そうだよ。これでも僕は英雄かよ。違う。僕は英雄なんかじゃない。所詮妄想の存在で希望だぜ。一人じゃ何もできないヘタレだ。
The voices around me fell silent. The crowd stopped cheering. The media were looking at me, confused and suspicious. Here, in the middle of Shibuya, in the heart of Scramble Crossing, my voice was the only sound.
それが僕だ。お前らに他人に僕っていう人間を決めさせない。僕の本質は僕が決める。僕はお前らのおもちゃじゃない。見せ物なんかにはならない。僕にはやるべきことがあるんだ。僕はお前たちなんかのために行動しない。
Suddenly, I saw an image of Rimi's face.
僕はただ
Yeah. Priorities, man. Want to fight for the person I care about, and then disappear. But before I could say that, suddenly I saw something in the night sky. It was turning white. It wasn't a cloud. It wasn't an out-of-season snowfall. It was the same phenomenon that had occurred during the last earthquake. But by the time I'd realized that, it was too late.
サードメルト予定より早い。
Oh boy. First there was the rumbling. The ground shook. The white in the sky spread further and further. Next, a terrible ringing in my ears. The high-pitched sound of something resonating that threatened to split open my head. Everyone around me was holding their ears as well. And then... the whole world turned white. So that was Sky. All right, I'm out. I'm out. Chapter end, chapter start, whatever, you know, glass half full, glass half empty. Chapter end, chapter start. Both are true. I'm out of here. I gotta go for. I have to recover. That was a lot. That was a lot. A lot of satisfying answers, though. I am more. I further understand the plot, I think. And also now I get to have even more upsetting nightmares about Pregnant Man. Thank you, video game. So I'm gonna go look forward to that and vomit profusely. Bye.